It started the night the city went silent. March 2025. The lockdown sirens screamed through every street, and the government announcement told everyone to stay indoors until further notice. The virus wasn't what scared me. It was the emptiness that followed. No cars, no people, not even dogs barking. Just stillness. I lived alone in a small apartment complex on the 5th floor. The kind of place where every sound travels. Footsteps, whispers, and sometimes things you wish you hadn't heard. That night, I locked my door like everyone else. Double bolts, chains, everything. But around 2:43 a.m., I heard the hallway door creak open. It wasn't mine, it was the main entrance to the floor, the one that led to the stairwell. First, I thought maybe a neighbor came back late. But then I remembered, no one was supposed to leave their apartments. The government had sealed every building. Even the guards outside were gone. The sound came again, a slow, dragging shuffle. Footsteps. Not fast, not heavy. Just slow, deliberate. I turned off the TV and listened harder. The steps stopped right outside my door. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it echo through my chest. Then came the knocking, soft at first, like someone hesitant to disturb. Tap, tap, tap. I froze. My phone lay on the couch, glowing with unread messages from family, but I couldn't move to grab it. The tapping grew louder. Tap, tap, tap. Who's there? I whispered. Silence. Then a voice. A low, broken whisper that sounded like it was coming from both sides of the door at once. Let me in. Every muscle in my body turned to stone. The voice wasn't familiar. It sounded distorted, like it was being played backward through an old radio. I backed away, step by step, keeping my eyes on the doorknob. That's when I saw it, the shadow under the door. It wasn't shaped like feet. It moved like smoke, twisting, crawling. The temperature dropped. My breath turned visible in the dim light. The whisper came again, only this time, it said my name. Eli. My stomach sank. No one in the building knew me that well. The thing outside was calling me by name, softly, like it had known me forever. Then the doorknob began to turn. Slowly, smoothly, even though I had locked it. I grabbed the nearest thing I could, a metal lamp, and raised it, waiting for the sound of the lock snapping. But it never did. Instead, the whisper changed tone. You locked it good. You should have locked them too. And then silence. When I dared to look under the door again, the shadow was gone. But from the bedroom behind me, I heard another door creak open. For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. That creaking sound came from inside my apartment. From the bedroom door I was sure I had closed before midnight. My grip tightened on the lamp, its metal base cold against my sweaty palms. I forced myself to move, each step creaking against the wooden floor. The silence between my footsteps was heavier than the air itself, like the whole apartment was listening. The door stood slightly open, just enough for a sliver of darkness to leak out. The light from the hallway didn't reach inside, and for a moment, I convinced myself it was just the wind from an open window. But there were no open windows. Everything had been sealed for quarantine. The government had ordered even the ventilation ducts to be shut to prevent contamination. I pushed the door slowly. It let out a groan that sounded almost human. Hello, I whispered. Nothing. The smell hit me next. Damp, metallic, faintly sweet, like rust and old blood. My room looked the same at first glance. Bed, desk, laptop still open from my last Zoom call. But something was off. The shadows didn't sit right. They moved differently, as if the light was flickering, though every bulb burned steady. Then I saw it on the far wall above the mirror. A dark handprint, not smeared, not painted, pressed deep, like someone had leaned against the wall with wet fingers. The print glistened faintly. I took a step closer, squinting to see it better. That's when I noticed the reflection. In the mirror, there was someone standing behind me. I spun around. No one. My pulse was so loud it drowned out everything else. I looked back at the mirror, the figure was still there. A woman. Pale skin, long black hair clinging to her face. Her head tilted as if she was listening. She wore a hospital gown, dirty and torn, the kind I'd seen on news reports from quarantine centers. But her eyes were completely black. Not hollow, not bleeding, just void. I stumbled backward, knocking the lamp from my hand, crashed to the floor, and the light flickered out. For half a second, the room was swallowed in darkness. When the light steadied again, the mirror was empty. The handprint on the wall was gone too. I thought maybe I had hallucinated it. Stress, fear, isolation, until I looked down. The floorboards under my feet were wet. I stepped back and saw a thin line of dark liquid seeping out from under the bed. It wasn't water. The smell confirmed that. My stomach turned as I crouched down, peering into the shadows beneath. Something moved, a soft rustle, like fabric dragging across wood. Then, slowly, a pale hand reached out from underneath, gripping the floorboards. Long, thin fingers, nails cracked and blackened. Before I could react, the hand pulled back sharply, vanishing into the darkness beneath the bed. Then came a whisper, the same broken voice from the hallway. "Too late to lock the bedroom, Eli." The lights flickered once more, and this time they didn't come back on. Darkness swallowed everything. For a moment, I couldn't even hear my own breathing, just the faint hum that comes before silence turns heavy. My phone was still on the couch, its glow gone. No signal, no Wi-Fi, just dead pixels in the dark. I whispered my own name under my breath, like saying it out loud would remind me I still existed. The air had changed, thicker, colder, heavy with static. Every hair on my arms stood on end. Then, from the bedroom, came the sound of something shifting. A slow drag, like skin scraping against the floor. I forced myself to move toward the kitchen, hands stretched out to feel my way along the wall. The darkness felt alive, pressing in around me. When I reached the light switch, I flicked it up and down. Nothing. But as my eyes adjusted, I realized there was a faint orange glow coming from the crack under my front door. It flickered like firelight. Someone or something was moving in the hallway. I got closer, just enough to hear it breathing. Long, rattling inhales followed by a wheezing exhale, like lungs full of dust. Then the sound of a chain dragging. I didn't dare peek through the peephole, but I didn't need to, because right then, the voice came back. "Eli, you left one open." It was right outside the door. I backed away, bumping into the counter. My elbow knocked over a glass, shattering it across the floor. The sound echoed through the apartment. Too loud, too sharp, and the breathing stopped. I waited, frozen, my mind racing through every possible explanation that didn't involve ghosts or demons. But then I remembered the news. A month ago, a facility near downtown had been closed after unidentified exposure events. People vanished inside, leaving only footage of locked doors swinging open by themselves. Some said it was a virus mutation. Others said it was something that learned to mimic the voices of the dead. The orange light under my door dimmed, like something had crouched down in front of it. Then a low whisper slipped through the crack. Not one voice, but many. Layers of whispers overlapping each other, forming words I couldn't understand. My ears burned, my chest tightened. The walls themselves began to tremble, the pictures rattling against the plaster. Suddenly, every door in the apartment, bathroom, bedroom, closet, slammed shut at once. Bang! The echo shook through me. I ran for my phone, the only bit of light I could rely on. When I turned it on, the screen flickered white, then black, then white again, and in that flicker, for just one frame, I saw a face. Her face. The woman from the mirror. She was right behind me. I turned, nothing. The apartment was empty again. But now, the smell of rust was stronger, and the air buzzed like static electricity. I could hear faint murmurs from the walls, like a dozen voices whispering at once. Then my phone lit up again. One notification appeared, though the network was off. Lockdown alert. Do not open your doors. Containment breach in progress. And below it, Eli, she's inside. The words on the screen didn't vanish. They pulsed, like they were breathing. Eli, she's inside. My first thought was that someone had hacked the emergency system, maybe some sick prank. But then the message flickered again, and every letter slowly began to drip. Black digital streaks running down the screen like melting ink. My stomach twisted. I dropped the phone, and as it hit the floor, the screen stayed lit, casting a ghostly glow across the apartment. That's when I heard it from the kitchen. The faint sound of humming. A woman's voice. Soft. Familiar. It wasn't a melody I knew, but it had the rhythm of a lullaby. Slow, almost tender, as if she was trying to soothe a child. My mind went blank for a moment. I couldn't move. Every instinct screamed, "Don't go there." But curiosity dragged me forward like invisible hands. The kitchen light blinked on by itself. Faint, flickering orange, like a dying bulb. She was standing by the sink, her back to me, the same woman from the mirror, the one who'd whispered through the door. Her hospital gown clung to her skin, soaked and dark at the edges. Her hair hung limp and wet, and her feet left small puddles where she stood. "Who are you?" I managed to whisper. Her humming stopped. Slowly, she turned her head. Not all the way, but just enough for me to see her profile. Her cheekbones sharp, her skin pale as bone. And then her voice, soft, but layered, like multiple voices speaking in unison. "You left it unlocked." I glanced toward the hallway, the back door, the one leading to the old maintenance stairwell. My heart sank. I never checked that one. It had been bolted shut since I moved in, but maybe the maintenance workers had opened it during inspections. I turned back. She was gone. The kitchen was empty, but where she'd stood, the tiles were cracked, and a black, oily residue seeped between them, spreading like veins across the floor. It smelled of iron and decay. A sound came from the hall, something moving fast. I ran toward my bedroom, slamming the door and locking it. My reflection stared back at me from the dark window. For a second, it wasn't my reflection anymore. It blinked when I didn't. His mouth moved even when mine didn't. "Open it, Eli." I stumbled backward, tripping over the bed frame. The knocking began again, first gentle, then violent. The doorknob rattled, shaking harder and harder. I shouted, "Leave me alone!" But the voice only laughed. Then came the scream. Not human, high-pitched, metallic, like metal tearing apart. The window behind me shattered inward, glass spraying across the bed. Cold wind rushed in, but no one stood outside. Just darkness. And through it, I could see faint, shadowy shapes climbing up the walls of nearby buildings. Dozens of them, moving toward the windows. The lockdown sirens started again, echoing through the streets. But this time, they weren't warnings. They were screams. My door burst open, and standing there wasn't the woman anymore. It was something wearing her skin. It stepped through the doorway, its movements wrong, too slow, too deliberate. The woman's face stretched into an expression that didn't belong to a human anymore. Her eyes, once black voids, now shimmered like pools of oil reflecting firelight. Her mouth widened too far, tearing the corners of her lips until her jaw cracked open with a wet snap. I backed up until I hit the wall, every instinct in my body screaming to run. But there was nowhere to go. The thing smiled. "You shouldn't have stayed inside, Eli." That's what they wanted. The room pulsed, lights flickering even though there was no power. The air vibrated with a low hum, the kind of sound that makes your bones ache. And then, for a moment, everything went still, like time itself paused. The creature tilted its head, watching me with a curiosity that felt almost scientific. I whispered, "What are you?" It blinked slowly, then stepped closer, its bare feet leaving black stains on the floor. "We were supposed to be cured," it said in a dozen overlapping voices. "But they locked us in instead." Images flashed in my mind, not memories, but transmissions. Rooms filled with screaming patients. Doctors in hazmat suits. Metal doors sealing shut as people pounded on them from the inside. A voice over an intercom. "Lockdown initiated. Containment breach confirmed." The thing in front of me leaned closer until I could feel the cold radiating from its skin. "They made us to survive the infection," it whispered. "But we survived too well." I stumbled sideways, grabbing a shard of glass from the broken window. "Stay back," I shouted, but the creature only laughed. A deep, layered sound that shook the walls. "You can't hurt what's already dead." Then it lunged. I swung the glass, slicing across its arm. Black fluid spilled out, thick and slow like tar. The smell was unbearable, like burning chemicals and rot. But the thing didn't stop. It shoved me backward into the dresser, knocking the breath from my lungs. Its face came close, and I could see something moving beneath its skin. Shapes pressing outward, like hands trying to escape from the inside. "Do you hear them?" it asked. The hum in the air grew louder. Now it wasn't just a sound, it was voices. Hundreds of them, whispering, crying, chanting. Every surface vibrated, the walls bulging as if something behind them wanted out. The creature's hand reached for my throat, and then suddenly froze. Its head snapped upward, eyes wide in panic. From outside, another siren started. A deeper tone, one I hadn't heard before. Through the shattered window, floodlights ignited across the street, scanning the building. A loudspeaker boomed. "Building 7. It's me." My heart stopped. It was my mother's voice. But she died in 2023.